Hello, what's going on everyone? And in this video I want to show you guys how to be able to hide something like a password field in a web page. Okay, and we're going to use JavaScript, CSS and HTML to be able to do that. I've seen that in a lot of cool projects. Okay, how you can actually hide and then unhide something like a password. Okay, and as well we're going to take it further to add something like a reset functionality, where if all that you have typed into the form you feel like it's actually not correct, you can click just one button on that particular page and then it will clear all of the fields for you so you can actually start typing afresh. Okay, so I'm going to show you that right now without wasting much time. Let me demo the application for you guys on my computer so that you understand what I'm actually talking about, because I'm quite sure that a good number of you might not actually understand what I'm trying to do right now. So, but I will visualize that. Let's visualize that on my system right now by going through the demonstration of that particular application.
So this is basically the script that we'll be building. I'm going to demo that in a little while, but we do basically have like three functionalities to this right here. Right here, we can actually start typing our password from here, and then it will basically check and then verify between the password that was typed in this particular field and then the one that was typed down here. And if they are really the same, it's going to say that two passwords really match. And if they do not, it's going to really tell us that the two passwords do not actually match. And after that, we can also have the ability to actually display the real text that is actually hidden, because if you start typing right here, right now, let's say I go ahead and then type this, you see that what is getting typed in here was not actually shown in such a way that you'll be able to see whatever the password is. Okay, so if I click on this particular button right here, or this check mark right here, you see that it's basically going to review whatever that I was actually typing in there. Okay, so let's say that this is actually going to be our password, and down here, and remember that down here we still have password do not actually match. So if you get down here and we do this, and you see that if you take a look down here, see that it says password match, and that is because I checked what is here in combination with that which is actually here. It's a kind of a compare the two and then discover that they're actually the same. So if I click here, you see that we have code kinder and also have code kinder right here with exclamations. Okay, so they're basically correct. So if you take away maybe the exclamation here, see that it goes back to password do not actually match. But if you put it back, it checks between the two. Okay, and then be sure that they really match. Okay, and if you don't want to be seeing the text right here, you can uncheck this, and it goes back to the real password stuff right there. Okay, so you wouldn't be actually be seeing it. Maybe someone is actually around when you were typing, you don't want them to see it. You can use this toggle to be able to do that, guys. Okay, so that's just the second functionality. So it can compare the two passwords and then finds out if they really match before you can go ahead and then submit. And if they do not actually match, it tells you that they do not actually match. And after that, we also have a different functionality right here, okay, which is to reset. If you want to clear everything that you type right here, you can change this to something like clear or something of that nature. Okay, but I mostly see people have this reset right there. Okay, so if I click on reset, you're going to see that all of these things that I typed into these fields will be cleared away. So let's click on that. You see it clears. You see how that works, guys? Pretty simple. So that's just basically what we're going to actually do on this video. So let's go back to our development environment and see how we can actually do that. So if I go to my desktop right here, I want to create a new folder for the project we want to work on right now. And let's go ahead and call this something like passwords, like that. And I want to open this up with my Visual Studio Code. So if I go right here, I want to go to my Visual Studio Code, and that opens up, and we do not like have any files in here, so we can create our files right here. This is going to be index.html, and that's just our first file. Okay, so I want to throw in my exclamation sign and then hit tab, and it's to generate this for me. So right here I can go ahead and just do something like, let's call the password review / hide, like that. Okay, so maybe we should add something like scripts or functionality like that. Okay, so within here we can create our form within this particular place, and I'm going to start that right now. So but before I do that, let me link to my CSS first of all. So down here, just within the head region right here, we can just link to our CSS. So we can do link, and you can say something like, well, set that to, this is going to be style sheet, like that, and we can do href just to tell it where the file is actually going to be located. So we haven't actually created the files yet, but we're going to create that. So we're going to call that styles.css. okay, so that's just that. We want to close this in here, and we can go ahead and create that file right now. So let's call this styles. css. Okay, so we have styles.css right there. We're going to work on it very soon. So within this place, let's create our form first of all, and I want to create something like a div first of all that will hold all of the form that I want to create. Okay, so basically I want to just give this a class name of password container. So let's call that password dash container like that, and let's go ahead and close that down here. This is going to be div to close that. And then within this particular password container, we can create our form right now. And I want to do it in such a way that I'm going to just do form right here. Maybe the action is actually going to be set to, we set that to an empty string, and we can set the method. So about this, and let's set the method right here, and we'll set that to be equal to something like post. Okay, so we can go ahead and then close the form down here. So this is going to be form to close the form. Then within this particular form, I want to put something like a div right here. So I'm going to just do div, and this is actually not going to actually have any class or something like that. Okay, so let's make sure we kind of try to create, close the div right here. So this is going to be div to close the div that I just opened up there. And what I want to just basically put in here is just the first field. Okay, so which is going to be the password field. So I'm going to just do input type. This is going to be input, and we're going to just say type, and we can go ahead and set that to something like, this is going to be password, right guys? So we'll set that to password, and we can give this an ID. So this is going to be an ID. I don't know why the cursor keep moving around like that. So this is going to be ID, and then we can go ahead and set the password ID to something like password 1. Okay, so this is going to be password 1 like that. Okay, so that's just that on that particular line. We could come back and then do some other things to this at a later time, but for now this is just basically what we'll have on that particular line. Okay, so I want to close that, and I want to like show you this on the browser. So if we go to right here, and I don't know whether this is the file that let me just basically close all these folders right here, and then even the browser. Okay, this is the first one. I want to close that and then get to the desktop, and then double click on this, and then we'll have this right here. So if we have that open, you see that we'll have this particular field in here. Okay, so we can just, if we type, you see that I see something that looks like a password in there. Okay, so that's just basically where we're going to let at a later time toggle. But for now, if you change this to something like text and then save the changes, if we go back to the browser and then we'll refresh, so if you start typing, you see that you'll be seeing the text that you are typing right here. Okay, but I'm going to just return it to something like text right there. A password right here. Okay, so and that's just basically the field that we're going to toggle at a later time. So that's just what that is. We can also put something like a placeholder right here, and let's say this is going to be enter password like that. Okay, so we have this particular div right here, and it's opened to this particular place. So the next thing that we basically want to do is really very simple, and that's just going to be for us to go ahead and create some other fields. Okay, so within this div that we'll have in here, I want to create another div right here. Okay, so this is going to be div, and what I basically want to do within this particular div is really going to be very simple. I just basically want to, let me close the div right now, and I want to like create the other two fields, like the check mark field and that of the label. Okay, so to do that is really very simple, and I'm going to just do that right now. I'm going to just say something like input, and we're going to set the type to be equal to, this is basically going to be called this check mark or checkbox rather, guys. So that's just what that is, and we can also set something like an ID for this. So this is going to be ID, and we can go ahead and then set that to something like a show password. Okay, so let's do show password like that. All right, so we can, let's give this a class, and let's the class be something like show dash, this is going to be password dash something like let's call this checkbox. Okay, so this is going to be checkbox like that. So that's just the class we have on that line right now, and I want to just go ahead and close this right now. Okay, and the next one I want to create, this is going to just basically be a label. So this is going to be label, and within the label I want to, let's create a for attribute that we're going to basically set to something like show password. Okay, so this is going to be show password, and we can also give this a class. Let's say that the class name is basically going to be something like show dash password dash something like this is going to be label. Let's call that label. Okay, and just like that. Okay, so we can go ahead and then create the text label, which is actually something like show password. Okay, like that. So we can go ahead and then close the label right here. So this is going to be label that. So what I want to do right now without wasting more time is I basically want to copy this the way that it is right now, and put it on the next line. Okay, so I'm going to basically modify this for that of the second password field. Okay, so I want to change the ID right here to password 2, and let's say something like verify password, like that. Okay, and then down here within this place where we'll have this input type set to something like check mark, we can actually leave check mark right there. But then for the ID, I want to change this to something like, instead of calling this show password, we can call this something like show confirm password, like that. Okay, and then the class name right there, we can actually leave that the way that it is. Okay, and then down there where we'll have the label right here. Okay, so we'll have the label down here. We can also go ahead and then change this if we want to. So I'm going to just basically do confirm, like that, confirm password right here, and then the class can actually remain the same. Okay, so that's just basically what that is right now. But then, however, the next thing I want to do, I think I should stop right here, and maybe let's create before we really stop, let's go ahead and then create something like, let's say it's basically going to be that of the submit buttons. So to do that, I'm going to just do a div, and let's close that, and let's just do div like this. And then within these particular places, we can go ahead and then create the buttons. So I'm going to just do button, and we can just do type right here. So button type, we are going to basically set that to button, and that's just that. And we can also, let's go ahead and enter the text that we want people to see. So the first one is actually going to be reset, and we can go ahead and close the button right here. And I'm going to copy this, and this is just basically going to be for that of the submit. So we're going to just do submit, like that. Okay, so that's just basically what it is right now. Okay, and what I want to do without wasting more time is to just hook up with that of the what is it called, the CSS, and then see what we can actually do. Okay, so to do that, if I go into the CSS, I want to go ahead and then do the styling. So let's first of all style the body, and to just test if the body is actually connected, we can just do the, what is it called, the background change. So I'm going to just do the background, and I want to set that to be let's say this is actually going to be black. Okay, and I want to save the changes and then refresh my browser right here, and then you see that the style is actually coming in. So what I want to do, I want to first of all change this color that we have in here. I don't want that black color to be on that particular background. So what I want to do with the rest of the things I want to do, I want to change the background right here. So this is going to be F7, 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 like that. So that's just the type of a gray background I want to use. Then I'm going to set the display, and then set that to something like flex. And after that, we're going to set the justify. This is going to be justify content, and we set that to the center of the web page. And after that, we're going to align the items. So this is going to be align. This is going to be items. I'm going to set that to the center, like that. And after that, we are going to set a height for this. So this is going to be height, and we'll set that to, let's make sure put this on a separate line, guys. So the line height right here, I mean the height of the box, okay, or the body is actually going to be set to, this is going to be 100. I'm going to just set that to 100 VH, like that. And the margin, and it's just basically going to be 0 margin, like that. Okay, then the font, this is going to be the font family. So let's do font family, like that. And we can do Arial, Helvetica, sans serif. You can use any other font family that you want, and that should just be it on that body. So the next thing I want to do is if we go back in here, that is a class that we created earlier, which we basically call the container right here. So I'm going to copy this and then go back right here, and I want to paste that right here. Okay, so we're going to add a dot in here because it's a class, and we can throw in a couple of styles right here. Okay, the first one is going to be the display. Let's go ahead and set that to something like flex, and after that we can also set the flex direction. So this is going to be flex dash direction, and we want to set that to colon. Okay, so this is going to be colon, like that. And then we want to still align the items in here. So this is going to be align items, and we want to set that to the center of the web page. So this is going to be center. Let's type center correctly, and after that we also going to set a border. Let's say that the border that we want to set is actually going to be 1 pixel. This is going to be solid, and I want to set that to the following color. So this is going to be CCC, like that. So that kind of a gray color. And after that, we want to set a padding. So I'm not quite sure I've set the padding. So this is going to be padding, like that. And we're going to basically set that to 20 pixels. So this is going to be 20 pixels. And we're going to have border radius. So this is going to be border radius. And we'll go ahead and set that to maybe something like 10 pixels, guys. So if we do this 10 pixels, that won't be too bad. And we can actually go ahead and then set the box shadow. So this is going to be box dash shadow, and I want to set that to the first value is actually going to be 0, and the second one is actually going to be 0, and I'm going to set the third one to be actually 10 pixels. And after that, we're going to add an RGBA like that. Okay, so it's going to be RGBA, which is just going to help us for the opacity. So I'm going to set the first value to 0, comma 0, comma, and then the third one is basically going to be 0.1. Okay, so you can experiment that, maybe put something like 1, see how that actually works, guys. So the next thing is actually going to be the background. So this is going to be background, and the background right here is actually going to, we're going to set that to white. I'm going to just basically set that to, let's make sure I type that correctly. This is going to be like that. That's going to give us a background of a white to the container right there. And after that, we want to move on to the next thing right here, which is just basically going to be, I'm going to paste what I copied earlier at the dot right here, and I want to move on to the divs that I just created on that place. Okay, that's just basically what I want to start right now. And the first thing I want to do is just add margin right here. And honestly, it's just basically going to be the last thing. Okay, I mean the only thing I want to add there. This is going to be margin bottom like that, and we can go ahead and do 15 pixels, and that is it on that particular line. So the next thing is to now move on to the form inputs. Okay, so to do that is really very simple. I'm going to just do input, and I'm going to enter this square bracket and just do type. I want to set that to equal to, in our own case, this is going to be password, right? So if we do password right there, what do we basically want to do with the password fields right here? So let's enter a couple of styles for this. So this is going to be padding, and I want to set the padding right here to 8 pixels. So this is going to be 8 pixels. And after that, we're going to set the font size. So this is going to be font size right there. And I want to set that to be equal to 16 pixels. Yours can be anything, guys. So we want to set a border for that also. So this is going to be maybe something like border radius, guys. So I'm going to just first of all do border radius, and I want to set that to something like 5 pixels. But I think we also need to set a border just before this border radius. Okay, so if we set a border right here, and what is going to be that, so let's say that this is actually still going to be 1 pixel solid, and I want to set that to the same color that we used earlier, which is this right there. Okay, so that's just that on that line. And then the next thing I want to do, or probably the last thing in here on this particular input field, is just to set the width for this. So this is basically going to be, let's set that to 100%. So just so it can actually take the full width that is available to it. Okay, so that's just that on that line. So the next thing we want to style is going to be the show password check mark, which I'm going to just get the class right here. So show password check mark, which is this particular class. I want to copy that, and then if we go back right here, if I add a dot in here, I want to go ahead and paste that right there. Okay, so we have that right there, and I want to set something like this is just basically going to be a margin to this. Okay, so let's say set a margin, and we're going to just say margin right, and set that to something like, let's say this is going to be 5 pixels, and that is just it on that particular line, guys. So I want to copy this, the whole thing in here, and then paste it on the next line. Let's make sure everything is I'm going to change this check mark right here to label. Okay, so I remember that we'll have a label right there, and what I want to do is that I basically want to change the font size first of all. So let's change the font size right there, and I want to change it to something like, this is going to be basically 14 pixels, guys. So let's set that to 14 pixels. You can set it to a higher value if you want to. Okay, so down here I want to set the cursor effects. So I want to set that to something like pointer, and that way if you bring your mouse button close to this particular label, it changes to an icon that looks like that of a human hand, and that is just that on that line. So the next thing I want to do is to move on to the button. So we're going to do button right there, and within the button we're going to throw in a couple of styling right here. So the first one is actually going to be a padding. I want to set that to 10 pixels by 20 pixels like that, and after that we want to set the font. This is going to basically be the font size rather. So this is going to be size, and I want to set that to 16 pixels quickly. And then after that we also need to set the cursor for the button right here. So this is going to be cursor, and we're going to set that to pointer. So let's make sure type pointer correctly, and that is it on that. We also want to move, take the border away. We want to take the border border that comes with it by default. We want to set it to none. We don't want a border right there. But then we're going to just do something like a border radius. So this is going to be a radius like that. And I want to change the border radius to something like let's say so just basically going to be 5 pixels. And then for the background, we're going to just do the background right there. Let's make sure type that correctly. This is going to be background, and I want to go ahead and set it to the following hexadecimal values. So we're going to have a 00, and we're going to have 7b, and we're going to add ff right there. So that's just the variant of a sky blue I want to add there. Okay, so after we add that, we can set the color to FFF like that. Let's make sure we add the hash sign right here, so that is it on that particular line. So we can set margin left. This is going to be margin dash left, and we set that to be equal to something like 10 pixels, and that is it. So for that button right there. So the next thing I want to do is that I just basically want to set a hover effect for the button. So I want to paste that right here, then add a colon, and then do hover. And I basically want to change the background right here from this to a different variant of sky blue color. Okay, so we're going to basically, it's going to be 00, and this is going to be 5. This is going to be 5, and the next value is actually, this is going to be 5b. Let's change this to 6. This is going to be 6 like that. Okay, so let's also change this to something like this is going to be b3. Okay, so I want to change it to this particular variant of sky blue. So I have that right now. So let's go ahead and then refresh our web page right here, and it seems like everything doesn't actually look the way that we want it to be. Some are actually falling off, so we'll find out why that is actually happening. So if we go back in here, let's just I'm just basically trying to take a look at right here, because I've checked our CSS, everything is just okay. This is just basically what we want within the CSS, but within this particular HTML, I feel like there is a problem down here. So we do have this right here, which should basically be closed down there, which is closed right here. And after that, we do have this open div right here. And okay, so I think we basically need to open another div right here, so that this particular one, we close this. Is that right? Yeah, and then this particular one is closed with this. So the same thing applies to this one right here. So we should close, I open a new div right here. Okay, so that this one will close this, and then this particular one right here will basically close this. And after that, we open the new div right here, which is closed with this. Okay, so open the new div, close with this, and then this particular one, we close this one that we have right here. Okay, so let's save the changes right here. I think that should be able to come together by now. So let's refresh, and that looks like just what we presented before now. Okay, and I discovered that the way this is looking right here, it doesn't actually look like the original. So if we go back to maybe the CSS, I want to check within this shadow right here. I think the third one is actually 0 right here. I think this is just what it should be. You should be able to add this extra 0 right here, and then save the changes, and that should just take away that so much shadow that we have in there. Okay, so this is just basically how it should look like. Okay, so right now if you start typing, shows nothing, and if you click in here, nothing actually happens, guys. So nothing actually happens. Even the same thing applies to these guys. So that is just that. And but if I hover on this, I think like it's not really changing to something like a human hand. I expect this to like change to human hand, because we did some styling to that right at that time. Well, we'll have our label right here, which we tried to make that change to something like a human hand like kind of icon. So let's find out why this isn't actually applying to that. So if we go back to our HTML, we want to know whether the class is actually the same. So right here, where we'll have this show password check mark. This is okay. We misspelled the class right there. Okay, and we also did that to this. So let's save the changes, guys. And I believe that that's all we need to correct right there. So let's refresh here. And if you now move your mouse button, and I'm still not seeing that change to something like a human hand kind of icon. What is going on right here? So this is class. We now spelled it correctly. But why is it not showing up? Let me just copy this Oh, I see that we also misspelled password right here. That should be W right here and also W right here. And I hope that maybe there is no any other place where I did this same thing within this. Well, we'll find out if we refresh. Let's refresh right here. And now it looks like a human hand kind of icon, guys. So that should just that be that. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to move on to the JavaScript part of it, which if you take a look down here, okay, we haven't actually created the script that kind of takes us to that of the JavaScript. So I'm going to do that right now. So this is going to be script, and I'm going to do src for source, and I want to create a file that we're going to just basically call the script.js, and we can close that right here. So this is going to be scripts like that, and this should be able to take us to the scripting page. So we need to create this particular file right now. So I want to copy this, and then we'll click in here, and I'm going to just paste that which I just copied, and that opens up right here. Okay, so we can actually go ahead and then begin to type our JavaScript right here. Okay, let's save the changes in here first of all, and then get back into this particular place. All right, so I want us to create a function that we're going to basically use to be able to kind of grab whatever our users are actually typing into these fields that we have in here, which is the first one is actually password 1, and then the second one is actually called the password 2 right here. So to do that is really fairly simple anyway. So I'm going to just do a function right here, and maybe we're going to just name the function something like toggle password. Okay, so we have toggle password right there, and we can within this particular place we'll throw in our bracket in here. And the first thing I want to do right now is I want to create a variable that I'm going to just call, this is going to be password field. So this is going to be password field, and we can go ahead and set that to grab what is actually in here. Maybe we want to basically get the password 1 right here. And what I want to do right now, I'm going to basically do this by passing an argument up here at a later time anyway. So I'm not going to just basically or specifically mention this password ID just yet, okay? So I want to do it in such a way that if I do document, let's make sure I type document correctly. Document dot get element by ID, and the ID that I basically want to use right now is going to be, let's just go ahead and call this something like input ID. Okay, so this is going to be input ID like that. Okay, so I want to terminate this line, and I want to copy this line right now and then put it right there on the next line. And what I basically want to do on the next line is to go ahead and then let's change this variable right here, something like checkbox. So this is going to be a checkbox like that. And I want to change what we have in here to something like, let's say this is going to be something like checkbox ID like that. Okay. So what I basically want to do right now is that I want to pass these two things right here as an argument to this particular thing, since I don't want to basically use the ID right here just yet. Okay. So I want to pass that as an argument. So I want to pass that to this particular place. And the first one I want to really pass in right now is going to be the, let's go ahead and check and pass in the, what is it called? The input ID right here into this particular place and introduce a comma. And then the second one that we basically want to pass is going to be this particular one right here. So I want to pass this in here. And with these two things right here, argument by reference, we can actually, once we start typing, we can actually grab onto whatever that has been typed into those particular fields. Okay. And if we want to like try to prove what that is right now, we can actually do a console log down here. All right. So just to prove that we can basically get hold of all those things, whatever that we're basically typing within this particular input that we have in here, we can do a console log within our script right here, so which I'm going to just do. So for instance, if you, let's say, just for us to prove that we can actually kind of get all this password right here, let's test this first one right here. So we can do a console. If I do a console.log, let's do .log right here, and we can actually go ahead and let's pass in this variable right here. So this is going to be, let's go ahead and just say password, because we have that saved into this particular variable right here, right? So we have the inputs right there. So let's say that this is going to be a password field like that. So I'm going to take away, let's make sure I type password correctly, guys. Okay, so we'll have password field right here. Let's terminate this line, and we can actually go to let's save the changes. And then if we get in here right now, we want to call this particular function right here. Okay, this particular function that we have in here right now, I want to call it on that place. So if I go in here, I want to say on input. So this is going to be the events that we want to use. On input, what do we basically want to do? I want to call this particular function. Okay, so this is just going to basically be this way, and I want to pass in the ID right here, which is actually password one, just for the testing purpose, guys. So I want to pass in right here, and then so yeah, so this is how it looks like right now. We can even append the text right here, saying something like, let's say this is going to be password one value, which is just for the first field. Okay, so let's do that way, and I want to separate this with a comma. Then if we go back to our browser right now and we'll refresh, and we want to open our console log. Okay, so I'm going to do F12 on my system right now. That will have this open. So if I type in here, let's say go and basically it's actually getting that, but it's just basically getting the whole input field. Okay, so let's say for instance, let me show type this correctly. This is password one, and then we want to basically get the value, not the input field itself. So to do that, we're going to just do dot value and save the changes. Then if we go back right here, we want to go ahead and refresh again, and let's say we want to see the text right here. So this is going to be code kinder. You see how that we are basically getting the password right here. Okay, so with that we can actually access the password. Okay, so I'm just doing this for a testing purpose, guys. So you can also do the same thing if we create a function for that of the password field at a later time. Okay, but I just want to prove to you guys that we can actually get this. All right, so let's get back in here, and I want to basically take this back, and also let's save the changes. But within this place, I want to just basically comment out this particular line right here. All right, so actually I think it's also necessary to also show you guys how you can also take a look at this particular one right here called the checkbox. Okay, so if you want to do that, it's very simple. What you want to do is I want to uncomment this line, or just basically let me just uncomment that, and instead of this which we'll have right here, we can just change this to something like checkbox status, something of that nature. Okay, checkbox status, and within this particular place, instead of what we're having here, we can just go ahead and just do check box, and I want to change dot value from what it is right now to something like checked. So let's say something like checked, like that. So let's save the changes right here. Then if we go back to our HTML right here, basically we want to work on this first one, which is under password one right here. Okay, so I want to, let me just copy and paste the function that we want to call right here, which is the same function. And if you take a look at that, we're going to be using onClick event on this particular one, and it's going to say something like of course we're going to just put in the password one right here and a reference to show password, which is the ID that we'll have on this right here. Okay, so this is basically going to just work only on this particular field right here, which is password one that has an ID of 4. So I want to check, click on the save changes. If I save the changes right now, I want to refresh this right here. And if you take a look in here, if I click on the check mark, it says status right here set to true. If I uncheck it, it says that false. Okay, so that's just how you can, if you keep doing that, it's gonna just keep on producing that. Once I click on it, it says that to true. That means that it's actually checked. If I remove the check mark, it says that to false right there. All right, guys. So by now, I think that you guys have actually captured the gist behind what we want to do right here. Okay, so what I want to do right now is if I go back in here, and I want to also comment this line out like that, and then down here, what I basically want to do right now is to go ahead and then capture. So to capture the password field type right here, let me just within this particular function right here, I want to go ahead and then create that. So I want to, if I see something like password field right there, and I see something like dot type, and I want to go ahead and then set that to be equal to the variable that we have right there, which is actually checkbox. So I'm going to just do checkbox, and we're going to just do dot checked. Okay, so we'll do dot checked right there, and we're basically going to use a ternary operator right here to actually transform that from password to something like text. Okay, and then from that of the text back to that of the password. Okay, so if I do a question sign right here, at first I want to set that to something like text. If someone ever clicks on the check mark and then it turns to this, which is actually called a checked, I want to go ahead and then make that a text. Okay, I want to change the type to this particular thing, which is actually called a text right here. Or, and if someone ever clicks on that again, I want to go ahead and then turn it to password. Okay, so that's just like toggling. Okay, I hope you guys are really getting what I'm trying to explain right here. If you first click on it, it changes to by default it's actually a password, but if you click on it once, it turns to text. If you click on it again, it goes back to that of the password right there. Okay, so let's start terminate this line. And I don't know if we console log this, if it's actually going to show us something really important. Let me just try to, let me do a console log right here. I think I just basically need to copy or have here earlier. So I'm going to copy this and then paste that right here. Okay, so if I do a console log, what I basically want to log is this, okay? And just want to go ahead and then do that right here. It should just basically still be able to give us the same result, guys. So that is just that. Okay, so check box status. If I go back in here and if I click in here, okay, so at first I changed it to text. If I click that again, it changes that to password. Okay, changes that to password. So that's just how basically that is working, and I hope that you guys are getting that. So let's go ahead and then comment out this particular line right here, because we don't need to just keep on taking a look at that from that of the browser. So that is just it for way a kind of being able to toggle the password right here. Okay, we'll have that in this particular format. However, what I want to do next right now is to take a look at the password validation. Okay, so we've been able to like grab onto the status of this password right here. Okay, but I want to validate this password that we have in here, like comparing the two passwords in here and then letting us display a message whether it actually matches or not. Okay, so that's just the next thing that I want to do, and to do that is really very simple. I'm going to do that outside of this particular function, and let's do that. Let's create a function right here. This is going to be function, and let's say we're going to name this function something like validate password. And within that place, we are going to do a couple of things right here. First of all, let me create a variable that I'm going to just call password one, like that. So let's call that password one, and I want to go ahead and then grab onto that password one, and I'm going to use document.getElement by ID. So this is, I'm going to copy this right now and paste it right here. And what I basically want to get is I want to get the ID, which is actually called a password one, and like that. And I want to copy this, paste it on the next line. And what I want to do is to grab onto the second one, which is, I'm going to just change this to password 2 for the variable, and we can go ahead and also change this one to password 2. Okay, and I'm getting this from this place that we have password here, and then for the second one we'll have the ID to be actually the password 2 right there. So that's just basically what I'm grabbing and then keeping into their own independent variables, so that I can actually use maybe a check to actually check for them. So the next thing I want to do, I'm going to just do const, and I'm going to just do something like message elements. So what this means is that I just want to basically use this particular variable right here to hold the messages that I want to show to the users. Okay, so I want to paste what I copied earlier. Let's take away this. So I'm basically just trying to paste get element by ID, and what I basically want to do right now is to go ahead and then do something like password, and this is just like an ID that we haven't actually created. As a matter of fact, we haven't actually created this particular field right now. Okay, so we haven't actually created this particular field, so we're going to just basically get into our HTML and then create that. So let's call this something like password match message, like that. So let's call that just message, like that. Okay, and if we go back to our browser right here, I mean our index page, we want to go ahead and create the field for that. Okay, so we can, let's basically do that, create that div right here. So this is going to be div, and I'm going to just give it a class of the class we just talked about, which is actually called let me just check that again right here. So let me copy this, guys, and then if we go back right here, I want to go ahead and paste that into the class right here, and that's just that. So we can close this out right now, and we can just do div like that to close that. So this is basically where we'll be displaying the messages to ourselves right here. Okay, so and I think that basically if we go back in here, this should just be in quote, guys. I think this should just basically be in quote, and I'm sorry that I kind of remember to do that. So we should put these things that are just basically classes, put them in quotes, and the same thing applies to the first one right here. So this is just basically going to be in quotes, guys. So the next thing I want to do is we just basically want to, let's create check for password matches, and this is basically going to be, we're going to use if statement. So I'm going to just do if, and this is going to be the first variable right here is actually password right here. So I'm going to just do, if I copy this and paste that right here, if this is exactly equal to password 2. So this is going to be password. I'm going to change this to 2 right there. Sorry about this. So this is going to, I'm going to take this away and just change that to password 2. Okay, so have that right now. So down here, I want to bring this particular variable that we have in here right now and then paste it right here. We say message element, and I'm going to just do dot text content, and we want to set the content to be actually be equal to this. So we're going to just say something like passwords match. Okay, so that means that the password it kind of matches, and then we can also at the same time maybe try to change the color if we want to. And to do that, we can still paste the variable that we copied earlier into the clipboard down here, and we can just do dot style and dot color, and maybe we want to basically set that to something like, let's say, red or green. We can actually do that. So this one is actually for success, so we can just set that to green. So this is going to be green, and we can terminate that line, and we can add an else part down here. Okay, so to add an else part, we just do else, and what we basically want to do with the else, I want to copy this onto that line here, and then so we can now go ahead and let's say something like passwords do not match. Okay, so let's do that. Let's say do not match, and we can change the color right here to something like red. All right, so that's just that. So if we go to the index right now, so let's just basically call all those functions on this particular page right now. Okay, so the first one is going to be on this line right here. So to call this is going to be on inputs. We're going to just say on input right there, and I want to go ahead and then call the password right here, which is going to be password validate, something like that. So this particular function right here, okay, so this is validate password. We want to make sure that we call that within this particular place. Okay, so let's put that right here, and that is just it on that particular line. And then if we move on to the checkbox right here, we have on click right here, right, that we call the function, which is actually called the toggle password. So that one is actually okay, toggle password right here, and then we'll have where we'll have something like password one, and we also have a show password right here. Okay, so we'll do the same thing for the second field on this particular one. So I'm going to just copy this, and I'll say this is still going to be on click, and then if we check the second one right here, which is on the second field for the password, that's just basically the verified field of the password. We can actually go ahead and then paste that particular function I just copied now into this particular place. Okay, so and then we want to change this ID right here from what it is right now to ID2, and we want to we're basically going to change this particular one right here from what it is right now to the what is it called, the ID that we have in here, which is actually show confirm password. So I'm going to change this right here to show confirm password. Okay, so that is just that on those lines. So that is just that. Then for the where is it, so this particular one that where we have right here for the second password, we can just go ahead and then copy this particular variable, I mean this particular function right here, just the way that it is, and then paste it on that particular line. Okay, talking about the validate password, we want to go ahead and copy that and then put that within this particular place and then save the changes. And I think that that's just basically how we can actually get those passwords into those particular places. So if we go back right here and then we refresh, we can start typing right here, and then it seems like we have an error already. Okay, so we have an error, but then if you click on this show password, that part is actually working. But in terms of right here, when we start typing, say something like a type error cannot set property of null text content to, and this is just happening on this particular line 14. So we want to find out why that error is actually showing up right there. All right, guys, so I think I figured out why this particular error is actually showing. Okay, so this is basically coming from the text content. I think it's really coming from the if you go back in here to our index page right here, you see that if you take a look here, you see that we have a class in here. But then if you take a look at our script right here, we're basically trying to pass that on like something like an ID. Okay, so right here on this particular line, we're trying to just pass that something like an ID. That's why we say get element by ID. Okay, so that needs to just basically be an ID. So instead of class right here, I want to change that to ID and then save the changes on the index page right here. Then if we go back to our browser and then refresh this page, you see that when we start typing right here, you see that the error is a kind of a showing up right here. And then if you take a look at the console is actually free right now. And you can also toggle between this place right here to actually see what is happening. So that's just what that is, guys. So if we check, let's try to get the password correct. Some just do code like that, and if you click on here, you see that it's a kind of a shows, right? So this is going to be code kinder 1, and under this place we're going to just do code kinder 1, and then it seems like that did not actually change. Okay, so it's because the case sensitivity. Okay, so I think the two password are kind of a match right now, but then it's not like changing right there. So I want to know why that is not actually changing. So this 1, 2, 3, 4 right there, and we'll still have something like password do not match. We need to find out. Maybe we should check our if statement. So if we go back to this particular place, and based on what we have in here, we are saying that if password 1 is actually exactly equal to password 2, we're able to print out this particular message right here. And then else we go ahead and print out this part. Okay, so all right, so I think I've figured out why that is actually showing. So if we go back to, no, not here, if we go back to our script right here, I discovered that we are really not referencing to the value itself right here. Okay, we're not capturing the values in here. So all these lines, they need to have something like dot value to be able to capture what is actually in the value. Okay, so let's do dot value and dot value right here, and save the changes, and then let's take a look at that to know whether it's actually going to produce the real result for us or not. So if we go back in here, I want to refresh here first of all, and then I want to go ahead and then begin to type right here. So this is going to be Henry, and 1, 2, 3 out, and down here I want to just do Henry 1, 2, 3 exclamation, and I want to like make sure that I kind of see this to see whether the two password are kind of matches. Okay, so I want to change this to art, and I see that it produces the password matches right here. Okay, so if I change any of them, maybe I change this to something like exclamation, you see that it does not match, and then it produces a password do not actually match. Okay, so the two must actually be the same before it can actually produce password matches. Okay, right there. Okay, so that's just that, guys. So let's close out these for now, and then we'll have this on our index page. So let's try that one more time. So if I do something like, let's say this is going to be Adam. So I want to show you guys what this is. Adams 1, 2, 3 right there exclamation, and let's change this to Adam 1, 2, 3 exclamation, and let's make sure we also do kind of a show this to ourselves. So this is going to be Adam. Okay, Ada. That's what I actually typed before now. Okay, so that's just what it is right now. And I don't like the way this is actually shrinking, going off the place that is actually supposed to basically occupy. So we want to check how we can actually work on that. If we go to our CSS, I want to go to the inputs right here where we'll have password. I want to copy this, and I want to introduce a comma right here, and then paste that. Then I want to change this to text. Okay, so that when it changes to text, that place does not actually collapse like the way it's actually collapsing before now. Okay, so I want it to look like this. So if I say this and then I do this, it stays just the same. Okay, stays just basically the same on that particular interface. So the next thing I want to do is to work on this reset. Okay, this reset, so that once we click on it, as I'm clicking on it right now, nothing is actually happening. I want to be able to click on it and then it will clear everything that we have here. Okay, so to do that, if we go back to our script right here, we want to go ahead and do that maybe down here. Okay, and let me just create a function that I'm going to just basically call reset form. Let's call this reset form, and the thing we want to do right now is going to be very a little bit simple. So I want to just do a document. So let's do document dot get element by id, and the first id that I basically want to get right now is going to be that of the password. Okay, so I'm going to just within this place, I'm going to just reference to password 1, and it's just not just by getting the password, I just want to get the value that is being typed into the password. So I'm going to do dot value right there. Let me copy this and then paste that on the next line, and I want to basically get the password 2. Okay, so let's change this to password 2, and that is just that on that line. So the next one is on the check mark. So I'm going to just kind of go ahead and paste what I copied earlier, and I basically want to reference to the show password right here. So I want to change this right now from what it is from here. I'm going to just do something like show password. Okay, so I'm going to do show, and let's capitalize this, and this ID is actually within this particular place. Okay, so if you take a look in here, what is that ID? So right here you see that we'll have show password right here. So that's just what I'm referencing to. So I want to see a way of basically going to like set that to false. Okay, so if we'll have show password and we'll have that, maybe let's say that that is actually checked, so I'm going to just do dot checked. And what I basically want to do is really very simple. So let me just delete this. So I just basically want to go ahead and set that to false. So this is going to be false like that. And I want to do the same thing for the next ID, which is just something like show confirm password. So if I copy this line and then paste it on the next line right there, and let's make sure copy everything and then paste it right here. And what we basically want to do is to where they say something like a show confirm password, I want to change this to show confirm password, and I want to go ahead and also set that to false. Okay, that's just what I want to do on that line. So the next one is on the type. Okay, so to work on the type, we can do that down here. So let me copy this and paste that on the next line. And what I want to do with this is really to work on the, let's say that the password one right here, and we'll have that. And I want to set the type of the whether it is actually text. If it is text, we want to be able to set that to password, and if it is password, we want to be able to set that to something like text. Okay, that's just basically what I'm trying to clear right here. So okay, so once it is under text, we want to be able to clear it when it is actually set to text. If you click on this, so if you take a look at these things that we have in here, you see that they are under text right now. Okay, so but if you click on the reset button, we want to go ahead and unset these things. Okay, we want to remove this thing, these check marks that we have in here, and then set it to password. That's just what this line is actually trying to do for us right now. Okay, so and to do that, we're going to just do dot type right here, and we can actually go ahead and set that to be equal to, let's say, change that to password right here. Let's terminate this line, and I want to copy this and right here. And what I want to do with the second one is actually, if it is actually on the next field, which is actually password 2, and what I would basically want to do to also set it to password. Okay, so I hope you guys are getting that. Okay, so if it is checked like this and I click on reset, I want to go ahead and remove all these check marks so that to go back to password. That's just what this two line is basically going to do for us on that line. So the next thing we want to do right now is the messages. Okay, when you take a look here, see that we'll have a message right here. We want to be able to set the message to maybe something like empty strings, and to do it is really very simple. So when we get down here, we want to go ahead, I want to go ahead and then I want to copy this line and paste it down here. And what I basically want to do to a kind of a work on the text content is this. So if I grab onto the ID right now, which is on this line, I want to change password 2 to something like that of the password match message like that. Okay, so what I want to do is if I do something like dots text content right here, I want to do dot text content, and what I basically want to do right now is go ahead and set it to empty strings. Okay, so this is going to be set to empty strings. So let me also copy this particular line and down there go ahead and also change the colors, okay, of the text. Okay, I want to like remove colors of the message. Okay, so to do that is really very simple. What we basically have here is text content, and we want to change this time around we're referencing to color. So for that reason, we're going to just do something like this is going to be style, and this is going to be style dot color like that. And with that, we are setting the color to empty strings. Okay, so finally we want to close this bracket right here. Okay, so let's do that by adding this, and that should just be able to do it for us. So if we go back in here and then we'll refresh this page, and let's say for instance we have hello right here, and we also have hello right here. And then I want to go ahead, let's say we also put a check mark right here. This is the password and it matches. So if I click on reset and nothing actually happens, guys. So and that's just basically maybe we haven't actually called this particular function on that particular button right there. Okay, because if I go to the console right now, let me check the console first of all. And if we are clicking on this, nothing is basically actually happening. So there's no function being called here. So let's try to find out, call this particular function right here, that particular button. So that's just within this particular page. So let's look for the button that says reset right here. And then we'll go ahead and call that particular function right there. And then we just do on click, of course, because we're going to basically click on it, and we'll go ahead and set that to that particular function right there. Okay, so I'm going to save the changes right here. And if we go back, of course, we want to refresh, and then we can type our password in here, and let's get down here, just do code whatever, then we can maybe review it, also review this one, and then we can go ahead and click on reset, and it seems like that did not actually work properly. You cannot set properties of null setting checked. at a reset form. All right, so we need to find out and then debug this. All right, so I think I figured out why that error is kind of a showing. So if we go to our script right now, which is right here, and you check that right here where we're these two lines right here where we're working on the trying to turn it to false or true within this particular place. You see that we're having different wrong IDs on this particular place. Okay, so based on the check marks, if you check our index right here, you're going to notice that we do not have 1 or 2 on the field for that on the fields of those check marks. Okay, so if you take a look here, you see that we have what is it? So right here we'll have check mark, then our ID just show password right here, and then the same thing applies to this particular one right here. So we just have show confirm password, but there is nothing like 1 or 2 behind that. Okay, so let's go back in here and then we'll take this away from here. This is not supposed to be 1, and this is also not supposed to be 1 right there. Okay, so let's save the changes, and then if we go back in here, we want to refresh this page and then try again. So let me say code 1 2 3, and also say code 1 2 3. We have that to match, and clicking here, you see that we'll have those right there. Okay, then if we click on reset, okay, we do not have any errors right here, and then the these two fields right here, we show password and show password down here was able to clear, but for some reasons the password itself did not actually clear. Okay, so which we need to like try to find out why that could not actually clear. Okay, so let's try that right now by if we go back to our script right here, and right here where we'll have basically expect. Okay, so I think we need to just basically set this to empty strings right here. Okay, so it can actually be double quotation or single quotation, anyone you want to use. So we want to basically set those things to empty strings right there, and then we'll go back here and let's make sure we refresh this page, and let's do password again, and also do that same password again right here. Okay, so let's click on this. We have this right here, and if we click on this, we also have this right here. Okay, if we try to make that correct, it says match, and finally if we click on reset, you see that it resets everything. Okay, so it takes everything away right now. All right, so that's just that. I know that it was really a long one, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys really understand or follow everything that I tried to do on the video. Okay, and I believe that you guys kind of love this. So if you love the video, just try to give the video a thumbs up and try to share it with your loved ones. So sharing is love, and I think that is just it for this video. And I will try to just put the code on GitHub so that if anybody wants to download that, you can really go ahead and then get that from GitHub. Okay, so that's just basically what that is. I think I just test that for the last time, and I'm gonna just say something like Sam 1 2 3 exclamation, and I say Sam again right here, and 1 2 3, and you see that that did not actually match. So if you click in here, so I have Sam 1 2 3 exclamation, and if you click in here, you see that we do not actually have exclamation here. That's why it says did not actually match. So let's put that back right here, and then it should be able to now say something like that's really match. Okay, you see that's how it is. This is the same, and we can go ahead and then reset. If we want to reset, let's click on this to reset that. Okay, and as far as the submission is actually concerned, this one is actually optional to you guys. You can actually do it however you want to do that. Okay, so that's just that. Okay, so we basically are not submitting the form to anywhere. Okay, so that's just that. We just wanted to make sure that I'm able to show you this, how to basically do this on JavaScript. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.